Hi, I'm Holly Wright and I'm the Project Assistant for the Asahi Shimbun sponsored displays here in Room 3 at the British Museum. We are currently focusing on this object here, the Jericho skull. And really the point of this space is to focus on one object or a small group of objects and really explore them in way more detail than we are able to in the permanent galleries or wider exhibition spaces. In this particular display, we're focusing on this object which is actually on display usually in our permanent galleries, but it is in a case with a number of other objects that tell a much wider story. And in here, we're able to really examine and shine a spotlight on this object. We talk about how it was collected, why it came to the museum, but also all the current research surrounding it. So the work our curator has done on the scientific analysis and really delving into this object in a way we're not able to in the rest of the museum. The whole process of putting a Room 3 together is actually a very collaborative one. We work with a lot of departments across the museum. We work with the curator, who researches the object itself and provides the real core of the message for the room. We work with interpretation, who works closely with that research, and they help convey it in an engaging and exciting way to the public. We have our designers, both 3D and 2D, who help create the space and make it an easy place to walk around, to enjoy and to experience these messages, and 2D design these beautiful panels that help engage visitors as soon as they walk in. We also have our collections management staff and our conservators who look after the object's welfare, make sure it's stayed in stable conditions throughout the show. And we have our press, marketing and events teams. They will promote the show and make sure people can access it in as many ways as possible. As project assistant, it's my job to liaise between all of these teams and help get the show to where it is now. So initially, we have a proposal from the curator. Now this is just their idea and it's what they want to do with the object, it's why they think the object is important, and it's the key themes and objectives that they want to explore throughout the show. Then our interpretation officer will work with the curator to try and work out how we get these key objectives communicated to the public. And these can be quite big ideas, so we're talking about prehistory in this show, and this can be quite a difficult thing to phrase in a way that isn't too difficult or is too long and complicated for just one panel. So there's a whole element of developing the text, which is before we even get to the design stage. Once we get to that sort of stage where we have a rough idea of how we'd like the visitor to experience these messages and what way we'd like the visitor to walk around the room, we go to our designer who will design the space around those core messages, and we'll try and get a feel for the object and the kind of atmosphere we'd like to evoke in the room. This is all quite an intensive process, and our usual lead time is about 6 months, so we don't have very long time to actually work through all of these things. It can be quite intensive in the sense we have core meetings, we have external designers coming in sometimes, so there's a lot of communication that needs to happen to get these shows off the ground. We also do about 4 a year at the moment, so we're constantly working on 2 or 3 shows at one time, so that's lots of curators, lots of ideas, and lots of objects. Over the course of the 6 months, we will go through a number of stages, so the development and then refining those design ideas, refining the ideas for the text. We will also consult our curator and our collection staff on how the object needs to be displayed. Now this can be quite a complex thing, because if we need to create a new mount for the object or it needs very specific conditions, we have to think about that all the time while we're designing the room. Our conservators will advise on the exact conditions needed if we need a condition case, and this is all things that will affect the design long term. We also need to be in contact with our marketing and press to make sure that everyone's aware this show is happening. We communicate with our development team, who relay all of this information to our sponsors, so they're aware of what the displays are that are happening in this room. And then we also just have to make sure that we have an events program that helps engage people. We have a lot of gallery talks, we sometimes have events in the Great Court that help really add to the understanding of the object and the wider context.
Every exhibition here, whatever its size, includes someone from interpretation on its core team. Interpretation's main relationships are with the curator, the 2D and 3D designers, the access and equality manager, and the learning team. The role of interpretation is quite a complex one within an exhibition. Over the years, the interpretation team have observed, tracked and interviewed our visitors and have amassed a body of data about who they are, why they come and what they do when they're here. For this display, we had two distinct priority audiences, general adults and families. The curator became the adult guide on the panel texts, while Kathleen Kenyon, the director of the excavation where the Jericho skull was unearthed, became the family guide on separate family labels. Family labels had to work independently from the curator's text, as I didn't want accompanying adults to have to read two lots of labels in order to make sense of the display for their accompanying children. I felt confident that I was giving the visitors what they liked and what they wanted. Evaluation data from two recent exhibitions found that although families accounted for 11% of our visitors paid for exhibitions, 35% of our visitors actually read the family labels, and 95% of our visitors said they think that family labels were a good idea. Family labels have been very finely crafted. Although they're short, they tell us exactly the same story as the panels aimed at adults. The labels themselves took lots of writing and rewriting, and we had fantastic support from the Family and Young Audiences Manager in the learning team. We settled on a voice for Kathleen Kenyon. She's very stern and hearty and matronly. In previous evaluations, families have told us that they need as much help as we can give them in finding family labels in exhibitions. So we've got an orange stripe, an icon of Kathleen Kenyon, two really strong visual signposts to enable them to find the family labels.